Chapter 3. Let's see, where to start? I'm thinking about this a lot lately, and I don't want this to come off as though my life just sucks. It doesn't. There are a lot of great things in my life. I have dogs that I love. I have friends that are awesome. I have a husband. I do well in school. I have people that care about me. I have things that I care about. I have things that I'm passionate about. My life doesn't suck. Sometimes it does. Right now it kind of does because the whole situation with my dad and kid, but it doesn't suck. Also, just want to state, yes, this is the same hat. I couldn't wear it all the time, and yes, my teeth suck. My teeth are horrible. I never get to go to the dentist. I can't afford to go to the dentist now that I'm an adult. Whatever. Just another put that out of the way. I think that dysfunction is something that's hard for people who don't live in dysfunctional families to understand. Yes, my father is an alcoholic. Yes, my father was physically abusive towards me. Yes, he was aware that I was being sexually abused and did nothing to stop it. Yes, he was verbally abusive and emotionally abusive and neglectful in many ways. Yes, my brother is violent. Yes, my brother is addicted to crack cocaine, among other illicit drugs. Yes, my brother has a lot of issues. Yes, I have post-traumatic stress disorder. Yes, I've tried to commit suicide more times than I can count. It would take a while to actually count up all of the times that I've tried, the various ways that I've tried. Yes, the post-traumatic stress disorder did cause me to suffer a psychotic break. Yes, that did lead me to harm someone. Yes, I have issues of my own. So dysfunction, obviously, my immediate family dysfunction. It's kind of hard to talk about how my mother fits into that because I don't know her very well. I know very little about her. I know that she basically abandoned and then re-abandoned several times over my brother and I. I know that she today claims that she has no children. I do know where she lives, relatively. I know what city she lives in, thanks to an ex that she has that I'm friends with. I kind of met him by accident in an attempt to find my biological mother. And this gentleman, finds out about my search. He contacts me. He's around my age, dated my biological mother. So that happened. But anyway, what I do know of her, like today, I know through him. But obviously there's some dysfunction there. She claims she doesn't have children. She abandoned me in Florida when I was 15 years old. She allowed her boyfriend, when she did have physical custody of me, to abuse me. She told me that I was supposed to be aborted. She, tried to murder me. But I convinced her to drown me in a bathtub. Andrea H. style. Which I was too old and that was her last child, therefore it couldn't have been a postpartum psychosis situation the way it was with Andrea H. And you can hold whatever views you want to about that news story of the past. I don't really care as someone who studies psychology. Obviously, I believe that postpartum psychosis is a thing. Noticing that the glare is really bad on my glasses, but that's about the only way I can get light in this room because my apartment sucks. No, so anyway, I've been thinking about these things a lot lately, and I've come to kind of my revelations, which is you can't know dysfunction unless you live in dysfunction. I mean, you can kind of, sort of, study it and have an intellectual understanding of what that's like, you can certainly empathize or sympathize with those who have gone through these very dysfunctional situations or who were raised in very dysfunctional family settings. However, you can't really know it, unless you live it. And I think it's easy for people to judge that. I think that it's easy for people who don't live in these dysfunctional family settings to go, oh, well, wow, I mean, this man raised two felons, therefore he's obviously just an unloving person. Or this man went to prison and abandoned his children, the eldest of which he claims isn't even like his child anymore. Of course, he's just a shitbag, a dude pickle. It's not that easy. When you're raised in dysfunction, it's easy to fall into that dysfunction. I mean, my dad isn't a bad person. My father was raised as one of 12 children. From all of the stories that I've heard about my grandfather, well, first of all, my dad was abandoned by his birth father. He was very small. His birth father just up and left. He didn't have contact with him again until he was 30 years old when he came around kind of looking for money. My dad was adopted by his stepfather, which seems like, oh, well, that's great. He had this father figure to step in and just, man up and take care of his wife's kids. But no, my dad's one of 12. Some are his full-blooded brothers and sisters. Some are half brothers and sisters, children that my grandmother had with her second husband after my father was born. And then some of them are step siblings of people that my grandfather, that Pops had. Or not people, children that my Pops had before, marrying my grandmother. And from all accounts, from knowing my aunts and uncles, my father isn't the first level of dysfunction. There is a reason that a lot of my female cousins claim that the same male uncle molested them. Well, for one, he did. I'm one of those people. And for two, he was raised in a household where that was just normal. By all accounts, my Pops molested his daughter. By all accounts, my Pops beat his children with things like tire irons. By all accounts, he was a son of a bitch. Now, Pops that I knew, which he died when I was fairly young, but from what I can remember, he was a harmless old man. Like, the only thing I really remember about him is that he had really yellow toenails. That's it. But by all accounts, from what I've witnessed viewing my aunts, from what I know of common behaviors among survivors of child sex trauma and incest, from what I know of common behaviors among children raised in very violent and abusive homes, my father learned to beat his children. Like, that's discipline. He figures he's a good dad because he didn't use tire iron, he used other methods. Or he's a good dad because he didn't do illicit drugs so much, just drinking, and drinking's legal, right? Or he's a good dad because he gave us a roof and food for the most part. That makes, like, he was there. That makes him a good dad. Of course, there's more to being a good parent than giving your kid, like, a roof and food. You also have to give them love and support and access to, medical care. You have to do the best you can financially within your means and understand poverty thing. People are poor. You can't always afford, whatever. But my dad's always had relatively good paying jobs. And yet, my teeth be messed up. Because, I know, really bad English, it was on purpose. My teeth are messed up. My dad had dental care. He didn't take his children to the dentist. My dad had medical care. I didn't go to the doctor a lot. Like, I had this really weird inner ear thing that would make me kind of like pass out. And this is why, even though I wanted to be a cheerleader, I know, don't make fun of me. When I was in high school, one of the reasons that, well, A, I quit because I provided it, but B, I quit because I couldn't physically do it. It was giving me health problems, and then I didn't figure out until I was much older why that was. I've had the same gastrointestinal disorder my entire life, but didn't figure out until it hasn't even been a year, I don't think. No, it hasn't been a year. It hasn't been a year. Then I figured out what that was and got medication. So my entire life I've been like grossly underweight because I have been basically unable to eat when I didn't take any doctor. Had medical. He had insurance. And the doctor. You didn't think about that. Take your kid for checkups. Take your kid to the gym. So I mean, dysfunction is taught. It's not like you have this normal upbringing and then all of a sudden you're like, you know what I think I'm going to do? I'm going to beat my kid. I'm going to look the other way while my uncle or while my brother, rapes her and molests her and all this stuff because that's just the right thing to do. It's not that easy. It's not that simple. In order to understand how my dad became my dad, like how he became the person that he is, you have to first understand what he came from. And the same thing amounts to my brother. Like, yes, my brother is a drug addict. Why is my brother a drug addict? Why is my brother unable to cope with life to the point that he cannot maintain sobriety for long at all? He can maintain. He can look like he's clean. He's not actually clean. He's only been clean for a very, very short period of time. And why is that? Why does he keep going in and out of prison, and why can he not learn from his mistakes? Well, look at what he was raised in. He was raised by, a father who drank all the time. My dad got divorced, he drank himself into a stupor. My dad got upset, he drank himself into a stupor. I mean, granted, he went to work, he was a functioning alcoholic. It doesn't mean that he's not an alcoholic. Because you can maintain a job, it doesn't mean that you don't have a problem when you drink a 6-pack or a 12-pack every day in and day out. You have a problem when you are drinking and driving. Like, you can't go 10 miles down the road without having a beer. You have a problem. Like, you know it's at risk. Basically, when you can't weigh the risk and the reward for your behavior, you know that there's more than just an addiction problem there. You know there's a problem. My dad can't do that. My brother can't do that. They can't weigh that risk and reward. And I started thinking, well, how did I learn? And for one, I went through very intensive cognitive behavioral programs, which have led me down the right path. It kind of started me on the right path, and I've stayed on that right path. More than that, I think it has to do with the fact that I was a black sheep of the family. I don't know exactly how I developed the interest that I did. Something early in life caused me to be an avid reader, and so instead of going out and socializing, I stuck my nose in the book and I read. And I didn't just read fiction, I read nonfiction. I read newspapers. I read about different cultures. I read about psychology and sociology and history and everything. Philosophy. I just soaked in like everything. And I think that helped me. I think the fact that I was not only a good student, but, an above average student, and the fact that my teachers responded well to me, I think that helped me. I think that gave me outside influences to model. I think that's why I didn't get started on drugs. I think that I had other means, and that didn't help me as much as it could have. I mean, I did develop post-traumatic stress disorder. I did end up committing a felony when I tried to attack. Well, I didn't try to. When I attacked someone from my past. I mean, yeah. So I think it helped. I think it gave me a different set of cognitive skills that I could employ later in life when I did go through cognitive behavioral therapy to allow me to think about what I'm doing. And granted, I'm not perfect. I mean, I didn't get into a verbal altercation with my father at his house over his inability to stop drinking and putting the 5-year-old in danger, putting me in danger, threatening my life, driving without a license because he has brain damage that makes it impossible for him to drive safely. And of course, I did respond to his name calling and his threats and his intimidation tactics in a way that makes me a little ashamed of myself because I shouldn't have swung that at him. I shouldn't have yelled. I should have just, I should have responded better. However, I'm not perfect. No one's perfect. It's very hard to not scream at someone who is threatening to kill you. So I do think there's this misconception about, your family's just dysfunctional and looking at just my immediate family because it goes back so much deeper than that. And I wonder, how was my grandmother and my grandfather on my father's side raised? What about my mother? Like, what happened in her formative years to create the person that exists today? The kind of person who can say, I have no children, when she gave birth to 2 children. And there was no switch up at the hospital, like, I am legitimately her child, and so was my brother. I think there's a misconception about that, though, that, your dad's just a bad person, and you're a bad person, and your brother's a bad person, and if you were good people, you would have just made the right decisions your whole life, like everyone else, and you would be, wealthy, and you'd have your kids, and it would be fine. You'd be fine. It's not that simple. It's hard to break a dysfunctional cycle. When you're taught that abuse is love, it's hard to then later learn that abuse is not love. When you're taught that you are worthless, it's hard to become worth something. When you were taught that the way to escape your problems is through, drugs or alcohol, well, when you're taught that the way to, get through your problems is with the use of alcohol, why would you not also turn to drugs? Like, what's the really big difference there? It's escapism, and you need to escape. Why not escape through crack? Crack works better. Why not escape through crack? I mean, of course, that's not a good decision to make, but when that's what you've been taught your whole life, why would you think that it's not? You only have your experiences to go on. Whether you see that in real life, in the media, through books, through whatever, your personal experience. However you get that knowledge is all that you have to go on. You can't go on someone else's experience. So it's different. It's not that we just made poor decisions. You have to look at why we made those decisions and how we came to be who we are. Because who we are is totally fucked up. And I'm not going to lie about that. I mean, we are totally fucked up. And it's okay to be fucked up, but it's not okay to stay in that mindset. Like, once you realize, okay, look, I have a problem. My life is in the toilet. I have a problem. you have to then be like, you know what? This isn't who I want to be. How do I become a different person? And then take those steps, whatever those steps should be, whether it be going through counseling, getting clean and sober, whatever. That's what you have to do. And so I guess that's all for today. Chapter 3, little history of my family. And I will probably do this again tomorrow, because why not?